So today we are going to be watching a Jubilee debate, um, liberal teens versus conservative parents. So I'm intrigued. I'm excited to dive into this. So let's go ahead and just roll right into it. See what we learn.
When you're young, you're not thinking, and everybody has made a bad choice. And because you stressed out, you go change your gender. Because you want to try something new, once you do it, you can't go back. The more you throw stuff at kids before they develop, that's indoctrination.
When Jubilee created Middle Ground, the intention was to uncover humanity and empathy shared among strangers with opposing beliefs. Whether your political beliefs are on the left or the right, we all exist within our own echo chambers. So for this episode, we partnered with Ground News and created a test that can analyze your news sources and show you.
Oh, okay. I'll probably do this right after we finish this. That's great. I would love to do that. Okay.
You their biases. The participants of this episode agreed to take the quiz and share their results.
Awesome.
We encourage you to do the same.
Cool.
Step forward if you agree with the prompt. Cancel culture is a good thing.
We have the freedom to say what you want, but everyone else has the freedom to respond and cancel you if you say something that is racist, homophobic, transphobic, etc. Cancel culture is definitely good in the means of deplatforming people who are spreading very hateful messages.
What is your opinion on Trump being cancelled on Twitter?
Okay, first off, Trump was not canceled on Twitter. His account was deleted. There's a difference. He violated the Twitter TOS.
When you go onto Twitter or whatever, you check I accept the, guidelines, the community guidelines. I agree to follow them, and he didn't follow them, so Twitter has the right to.
By the way, these can't be like regular teens. Just the way they're speaking, especially being with three adults, they must be on debate teams or are involved politically within their schools. Because when I was their age, I didn't know shit. So this is actually really cool to watch them hold their own. These conservative parents.
Take him off the app.
And for people that might make the counter argument that Twitter is biased and will only cancel right-wing politicians, that's not true at all. Twitter and other forms of social media have canceled left-wing activists. There is an equal balance on both sides.
I don't know if I agree with an equal balance, but you're trying.
You brought up canceling him off Twitter. I'm sorry, I disagree. When the Taliban can use our social media, but an ex-president can't.
The Taliban didn't violate the OS. They adhere to the community guidelines. Donald Trump did not. Hence, his account got deleted.
There is something wrong with that.
Did the Taliban violate community guidelines?
It doesn't matter.
I think it matters to Twitter what their community guidelines are. That's why they banned Trump.
I'm glad that they're standing their ground. Both Hannah and Parker, I ship them for the duration of this debate, and I hope that they just completely conquer everybody.
Because Trump violated community guidelines. That's what every platform has, whether it be TikTok, YouTube, Instagram.
The Taliban stones people because they're gay.
If they've done that and they've posted videos of stoning gay people, I agree they should be removed, and that 100%. Is fundamentally wrong. So
Except the problem is they're smart enough to not do that.
Wait, did Mike just throw himself in his own in a trap? He just trapped himself.
Well,
then why wasn't Trump
then
smart
the
enough to
president
not do that?
wasn't smart enough to not do that, I guess.
If I'm an American and I have to vote between this person, I need equal access to both of them to decide what's right. Bro, you could be a Klansman. You could say you hate black people.
You can be a Klansman. What the fuck?
That's not my job to police your language. I can't expect everybody to love me and think the way I think. All y'all think different. I mean, that's totally dope. But the fact that you want somebody removed because they think differently, that could be you one day.
Do you think freedom of speech is something that still exists in America?
So, what kind of question was that, dude? This is what I'm talking about. Like, what does he mean by that? You know? Like, what, the First Amendment just fell off?
Go into a movie theater and yell fire. So obviously there are limits of freedom of speech.
But they're picking and choosing who they're silencing and who they're letting talk.
If people react negatively to what you say, it goes both ways. You
Right.
can't just say
Sure.
that, oh, they
100%.
can't. Oh, okay.
Absolutely.
America is becoming less and less safe.
So for this one, I'm gonna speak first before they start speaking. For this one, this one's inarguable at this point because we live in a period of where it's the safest it's ever been. Crime has just been going down like steadily over these last few decades, and I wish they would show charts and information in these videos. Um, you should definitely look into that.
I'll leave this to you guys.
So I have a lot of friends that have been in the military for the last 20 years because they refused to get vaccinated. They told me that they would be dishonorably discharged or kicked
Good.
out of the military.
Good.
I just believe we're losing a lot of good servicemen.
Not good. Look, refusing the vaccine compromises military readiness. It's as simple as that.
The current situation that we're in right now.
A lot of police officers are down. Crime is up all over. When police aren't there, we're murdering each other at a really high rate. Police are in those neighborhoods because the homicide rate is high. Y'all can run around talking about police all you want, but I challenge any of these liberal kids to spend 2 weeks in the environment I grew up in, and I promise your perspective will change.
A failed argument.
The one advantage we have about being older, we've been through a threat or two. And our enemies, you know, like China, the Communist Party in China, they're laughing at us.
I mean, he's not wrong. And they laugh with good reason.
You know, Russia's like, we don't need to do much. They're going to screw it up on their own.
They probably do. If you've watched any of the interactions between, like, for example, the press conference immediately after the allegations of Russia interfering with the election, Trump stood next to Putin and he could not point blank respond to one of the reporter's questions regarding Russia interfering with the election. And Putin looked over at Trump, fumble with that fucking softball question, and smirked and just probably thought to himself, oh, what a moron.
We need to get the help of our younger people that haven't been through a threat before to realize a lot of what's going on is not good. My name is Mike, I'm 59 years old, and I'm a conservative parent. You know, growing up during the 1980s, you know, that was a huge influence on me, and it formed my views and the people that I was around.
By the way, his generation is the reason why everything's so shitty right now.
That's the reason why I'm a conservative parent. I think America should be more middle of the road.
I don't know what more middle of the road means, but continue.
And not be necessarily more liberal. And if anything, it should be a hint more on the conservative side.
No. Being on the conservative side puts us back 2 more places. It allows us, it prevents us from evolving and getting with the times. We are so unbelievably behind with our technology, it's literally killing us.
Because we're going to watch our freedoms get extinguished or encroached if we don't guard those freedoms and make sure that all of our children have a chance to succeed.
Now, I agree with that part. We need a chance for all of our children to succeed. But conservatism is not going to be that, is not the solution to that.
Can the disagreeer step forward?
I actually wished I came up here for the agreeing section because I think.
What are you going to say, Ritwick? He wishes that he agreed with?
I interpreted the definition of safety the same way that you guys did, but after hearing your guys' conversation, I started thinking about how our American people aren't safe in the face of like imminent like climate disasters that are coming our way, and how we don't have the infrastructure to deal with that.
Okay, so yeah, Ritwick is right. America is just not prepared at all to handle any type of crisis. Like, for example, our infrastructure is so unbelievably flawed and pathetic. This is why we keep having reoccurring horrendous situations like hotels collapsing in Florida or entire grids freezing over in Texas. Okay. And in regards to like climate change, islands are sinking into the water. Uh, Australia was on fire. Storms are getting worse, and it really is. If you haven't read the IPCC report, I highly urge that you do that because
Very much agree.
the IPCC report, it pretty much tells you how bad the climate change is. And if you don't know anything about what climate change or the story of climate change, you'd have to go all the way back to like the fucking uh probably even before the 80s, honestly. But I'll start with the 80s, especially considering that it was a pretty important point. Exxon invested in its own studies regarding its effects that the oil companies were having on climate change, and they found that, oh yeah, we're doing some pretty bad shit. So they covered it up, and we wouldn't find out about that till like 2014 when information got leaked, and that started this whole investigation, and they found out that Exxon was covering it up. And then I think the latest one, the IPCC report that came out just a year or two ago, and they're like, oh, by the way, it's a lot worse than Exxon predicted, by the way. We're like far ahead of schedule. You have to read the report. It is disturbing.
Agree with that because I think we need to define like kind of like what we mean by like we're less safe now. Do we mean like there's more homicides after COVID, or like what do we mean?
I would say before we got rid of half our military, half our police force, slavery.
Oh my God, this guy. He's not living in reality. In what reality did we get rid of half of our police force? It wasn't this one. We didn't get rid of half of our police force or half of our military force.
Slavery was legal. The Holocaust was legal. So we can look at all of these mass atrocities and say we're doing what's right. Everybody who was a part of the Holocaust government,
That would be my face, right?
they were doing what Hitler said. They were doing what was right. So everybody losing their job for not getting vaxxed, and all the vax people, you got who can we control? Everybody who get the shot, that's who gonna do what we say. The enemies are coming, and we don't care about that because we wanna care about what color we should wear and pride and critical race theory. It's like no one else cares about that but us in America. That's our problem.
So you think that talking about sexual orientation and all that kind of stuff takes away from the safety of our country?
Who you sleep with has no merit in the real world. What does it matter?
Okay, let's just broaden the scope. With the coronavirus pandemic, why did it take weeks for us as a country to mobilize together to
Good point. This is one of the biggest ones. For those of you who know me, COVID was pretty much the enlightenment period for me. Being stuck in my house for the first few months, because I originally got sick, pretty much opened my eyes to a lot of things and also began my fucking obsession with politics. We had the worst COVID response by far, and we still continue to struggle with COVID to this day. It's March 30th of 2022. It's been 2 years, and we are still struggling with COVID. While we have other countries who just completely annihilate it and have no cases. And you could be like, oh, well, they have less citizens per capita. Well, it doesn't matter though. They were able to implement the tools and systems to eradicate it there and stop the spread of the virus in Vietnam.
fight the public health crisis that was
But we can't let Vietnam have the W because we're still sore from the last L we took in Vietnam.
already affecting the nation?
It was a scam to get Donald Trump out of office. It's all fake.
Oh my God. So a global pandemic was manufactured to get Donald Trump out of office. Okay, Johnny.
It's my opinion.
I agree with you.
It's a stupid opinion. And you can shut up, Sean. You haven't offered anything to this group of substance.
I don't think that we could create, or the Democrats could create some international plan, getting all of these scientific communities outside of just the US and even international governments on their side for something that they're just trying to get Trump out of office. I feel like that's heavily ridiculous.
Trump was the thorn that nobody saw coming, and they had to find a way to get him out of there.
You have no. I've heard that so many times. The thorn.
There's no mail-in voting. 100% Trump is the president.
And the mail-in voting thing is always one of the first arguments. Well, any Republican, not just conservatives, but any Republican will go to, and it's such a fucking soft argument.
President right now, 100%.
Yeah, because overwhelmingly mail-in ballots were to Biden, and that's obvious.
Exactly.
It's not because mail-in ballots are fraudulent, because mail-in ballots are actually not fraudulent at all. That this election was the safest election in recorded history.
There's a lot of videos, so you see people with fake ballots, so that's here.
Your grandfather would be so disappointed in you.
I'm not.
That's just hearsay from random people on TikTok. Are we really gonna take that as empirical evidence?
Exactly. Stupid opinion.
My name is Parker. I'm 19 and I'm a liberal. My sisters and I have become a lot more liberal, a lot more left-leaning over time, while my parents have stayed a bit conservative. Before, when I was a conservative, I kind of just went off a lot of the indoctrination and propaganda that was spread to me when I was a kid. I grew up on the fact that, oh, we shouldn't have increased taxes because taxes are just negatively affecting us. Personal responsibility isn't what a lot of the decisions people make in society is based on. It's mainly based upon their environments, how they're socialized by their parents, people around them, things like that.
My news source is more reliable than the other sides.
Yeah, everybody's gonna stand up for this one.
News source.
Yeah.
When I look at
I feel like that was kind of a terrible
conservative news, I see a lot of conspiracies that I don't necessarily agree with. And so if everything comes from opinion and just people
Yeah. I've looked through conservative news pieces and it's riddled in conspiracy theories.
developing their own ideas, it just doesn't seem reliable to me.
I feel like the only way we can get unbiased news is in order for news media organizations to stop prioritizing having really vivid headlines that might not necessarily be 100% accurate.
I think that
I mean, there is some truth. I mean, sure, if there were better practices implemented within mainstream media, but unfortunately, it all comes down to the corporate overlords. They own the media, so.
starts with putting people over profit. They want the biggest story or whatever, and they don't want to actually give the news that would be beneficial to our everyday average Americans. And I think that if we put a lot more focus on putting people first instead of the big news or the big story, we can change that aspect.
Yeah, unfortunately, most people nowadays, they don't understand. They just can't fathom the idea of helping your neighbor out or just helping fellow man out. It's the system itself. It's systemically flawed. It just breeds. You think that people are inherently selfish. That's a saying that a capitalist would say, because capitalism is inherently selfish.
Aspect of society.
I agree with you 100%. Like I say the civil rights movement is the civil rights entertainment industry because it's so profitable. Put a police shooting on TV, it's breaking news. Every headline is on every social media. You're selling shirts, you're selling signs. That's so much more profitable than showing me and you shaking hands. The news media is literally capitalizing.
Why would they cover somebody
off the emotions of society? No matter how you feel about it, handle it in your privacy of your house. Why? Because if you can do it on camera, somebody's gonna make $1 off of it, and that's not fair to you.
Young people
The boomer favorite, young people today are too sensitive. Oh, I bet all three of them are gonna walk your happy asses down there.
today are too sensitive.
Which is so funny because they cry about everything.
I think it's a good thing that young people are sensitive. I think today they can be more sensitive than what they probably could have been 30 or 40 years ago.
Well, yeah, I think today we just have a lot more opportunities to convey our sensitive emotions. I thought you were chewing at something. I thought my dog was eating something that she should not have been eating.
ago. You know, the growing up was the Berlin crisis, the Cuban Missile Crisis. I mean, we had the threat of annihilation, you know, staring at us several times.
Um,
And a lot of times I go, you know, thank God John Kennedy handled it.
The country has been spoiled for so long. They're trying to make it so a man can't be a man. And if you don't let men be men, then things start crumbling. Society crumbles, families crumble, and
I have this overwhelming urge to just start unleashing my wrath upon these people. You know what? Fuck it. Let's. I mean, fuck. He looks like he was made in a Pixar lab, right? Like he looks like he should be animated. His skin looks flawless. He has like these crazy like weird eyes. And look at that those lips. And that shirt.
broken homes start happening.
And kids need a father. So 36% of kids don't have a father. So every boy.
I don't know why, but I'm getting like these like Tupac vibes from Johnny. I like the vibe. I dig his aesthetic, but I do not dig what's going on up here.
Boy is, well, my mom is mad at me, my dad don't love me, my dad don't care about me. Maybe I should be gay, maybe I should be trans, I don't know who I am. And your father puts confidence in you. No disrespect to anybody, but the younger generation of men are soft. And if we had to go to war, they're not protecting America.
That's always like they're not going to war for you. Oh shit, because we don't go to war for fucking stupid shit. We're not fucking savages.
There's no better place to be as a black individual or whatever you are.
And when the time came, and if for whatever reason our younger generations had to go to war, oh, you best believe they're getting shit done.
In America, go to the Middle East right now and say you gay or you trans and see how they treat you. Johnny, I'm 32 years old, and I am a conservative parent. My grandfather was a no excuse individual. He grew up in the Jim Crow South, but he worked.
That's so funny. It's so funny that he says that because I literally just said something about I was making I was being facetious about his ancestry.
Worked hard. The house that he bought is still in our family today. He had a garden in his backyard. If you step past the
I just don't understand how his grandfather could literally grow up in the Jim Crow South, and yet here you are.
certain why he got on you. So to watch the men before me who really could have been lynched for stepping out of line, who really could have went through a hardship for not doing what's
News sources may sensationalize. Oh yeah, he's sensationalized for sure.
society said. The worst thing that can happen to me is I get a mean tweet or a dislike. So I gotta fully embrace who I am, and I know I can create anything with my 2 hands and feet.
I'm Hannah, I'm 17, and I'm a liberal. I really want equality for all, and the liberal policies that have been passed side more with my values of equality for those who are.
I'll be honest, Hannah and Parker and Ritwick have just been killing it. I have to reiterate this because, like, given that they're just teenagers, having this conversation with adults is pretty scary, and can be intimidating. So I have to give my props to these kids. She has not let off of them, and they shouldn't.
On the LGBTQ, those who are on the gender spectrum. Something about conservative parents that.
Holy shit. Look at that high factuality. That is amazing. Good for her.
What I don't like is whenever I come across them, they seem to be very rooted in their ways and not willing to listen to someone who's a teenager like me. They think.
Yeah, for some reason, I mean, I can't say for some reason. I know the reasons. Conservative parents, they're just it's just part of the ideology. They hold on to, the old ways. It prevents them from assessing and evolving or adapting to the changes around them.
More like, oh, because I'm older, I have more knowledge, which is not necessarily always the case.
And it doesn't help that our current system forces you to not have any time to think for yourself. You spend 8 hours or more. Some people, I know people who work 12-hour days. I mean, and it's mostly in medical, like for instance, like the medical field, or even in accounting, like or in some office job or in accounting. Long hours, and you spend most of your life in the office. You have no time for yourself. You can't work out. You gain weight. You eat unhealthy, and it allows no time for you to enlighten yourself in any way.
Can we have the disagreeer step forward?
This idea that because men are being raised by women that they're weaker is, in my opinion, completely false.
Yeah. Um, that notion, I'll piggyback off of that for a second because when I play like Warzone and like you kill somebody, one of my favorite comebacks is when the death column hits my ears and like, yeah, you have two moms. It's one of my favorites. Yeah, you have two moms.
Our generation, it's not more sensitive. We're more aware of all these things. Being transgender and gay is not something that should be ashamed of or make you feel less. In today's society, that is why women are fighting for equality, because this idea that because they only have a mom, they're weaker, or because, they're more sensitive, that's, in my opinion, completely false.
And I would say in the environment that I grew up in, the teen pregnancies come from girls without fathers. The homicides come from people without fathers. Every girl that I know, if they grow up with a daddy, they get married before they have a kid.
Why do they not have fathers?
If you want me to be real, because a lot of women make bad choices on the men they procreate with.
Wait, so he's blaming all women for this. It's their fault.
If you make a bad choice, that's your responsibility. Every bad thing that I did in my life, it was when my daddy was in jail. When my dad was out and I had my dad's reassurance, I was a better person.
I had one daughter that had to move across the country to get rid of a toxic relationship with somebody that was harming them.
Why does the woman have to move across the country because the man is being toxic? Why can't the man be taught, don't be toxic?
Oh, I agree.
Women nowadays have to deal with those kinds of relationships. The mother knows better, I would say, than the father about that.
We're not more sensitive, there's just more opportunities for us to be sensitive. You can say like 15.
I love this look on his face right now. He looks like he just does not give a fuck what Ritwick is saying right now. Like
20 years ago, there weren't videos of black men being shot by police.
I think he's trying to hurry him along. I mean, I could be completely wrong, but if I were like sitting across from him, if I were Ritwick and I was speaking right now and I just happened to be looking at him while I was speaking, I would totally feel like he was trying to rush me along.
All over the internet. Now that
Like he's agreeing, but he wants to say something.
that's there, people are more
Well, did you see his hand come up? He wants to say something. He's just trying to be polite and finish.
inclined to
thought.
feel a certain way or take a stance on that
What was he gonna
topic.
say?
Do you think it would be more beneficial to show police also interacting with white guys? Because
Oh my God. Of course he's gonna say that.
more white guys get killed than black guys by cops.
If you look at the amount of white people and the amount of black people, there are going to be more white people killed because there are more white people in America. The percentage of black people that are being killed is higher.
I would be dying of laughter trying to explain.
Than the percentage of white people.
Well, just because you're pulled over,
Oh, he might as well just say it's black people's fault.
doesn't mean you have to resist. I mean, they don't just kill you when they pull you over. It's all about based on how you perform as an individual. I've been pulled over and never had a bad interaction in my life. When I was rude, I got snatched out the car.
Okay, so then he proceeds to contradict himself by saying, "I've never had a bad interaction in my life, but when I got rude, I got snatched out the car."
Everything is a personal choice. If you can't take accountability for your life, then you will forever be a slave.
That's not true. There are definitely issues on the side of policing. Black communities, majority POC communities are over-policed. There's larger patrols in black communities. There are police work longer hours in majority black communities. So there's an issue from the policing side as well.
Politics has damaged my relationship with a loved one.
I'm sure you could relate to this as well, but in the Asian community, there's a lot of anti-blackness. So with
Oh,
the
oh, I'm so glad Ritwick brought that up. That is a big thing that's going on right now.
the advent of the Black Lives Matter movement this past year, having conversations with my parents was really difficult, especially around the nuances of racial justice and sort of like what the movement was fighting for and how to articulate that in like the very closed mindset that my parents had.
A lot of my family voted for Trump in the past election, and I don't necessarily agree with that. I don't like to say this, but it made me view their morals a little bit differently, and they're willing to adapt and change was so different, and I was just like shocked because I wanted to understand their side and really talk about it.
Yeah, I get where she's coming from. It's almost virtually impossible to have these conversations with your parents, especially when they literally look down on you. You're the child, I am the adult. It's a very authoritarian, relationship in the beginning. Yeah, and then you turn 18 and then the dynamic changes slightly. But when you're living in that household, it's their way or the highway. And so I don't think there's very much interest in trying to understand how you see things because you're just a kid.
And I was met with, "You're wrong, and we don't want to talk about it," and that kind of really damaged just kind of the way I looked at them.
Yeah,
It, yeah, I hate to see it. I really do. I wish parents could be a little bit more open-minded, and there are some. I won't say that all of them are. There are some that are very open-minded and will have these conversations with kids. I see it all the time, but more often than most, uh, you know, it's a very daunting venture to have these conversations with conservative parents, and sometimes it's a very brittle, you know, path. Like it could potentially completely destroy a relationship or, you know, make things a lot better. It can go either way.
yeah, I definitely agree. And I also think that it just made me less willing to expend the energy to have political or like just like any like hard conversations with my parents or
And this is something that I'm sure that everybody has family members that, they disagree with, and I'm, you know, I'm no different.
anyone else in my family. My name is Rithwick. I'm 18 years old and I'm a liberal. I grew up in a low-income
Did he say he was 18? Oh, I think he's the old. Is he the oldest?
immigrant household, and I think the systems that are in place right now aren't sufficient enough to support people, American.
Which is kind of funny though, because like he does look like he would be younger, but I'm still blown by the fact that he looks so much like this guy I used to work with. I'm trying to remember his name. Oh, I was I was probably 17 when I worked with this guy, so it's been a long time.
Americans like myself or my family, because my parents were immigrants, I think they were liberal on issues like immigration and things that directly affected them. I'd like to ask to the conservative parents why they don't necessarily listen or adapt their own beliefs, whether political or social, based on the conversations they have with their children and why they're so set in their ways.
Yeah, like I was saying before, they just can't. Uh, they don't take the time to. They don't invest any time in broadening their horizons.
I read a lot of the tragic stories where family members don't talk to each other anymore. Personally, I think that's sad. Do all my family members vote the same? No. Do we have a pretty good idea of how family members may have voted? Yeah. But we went more of agree to disagree. I'm not going to not buy you a present for Christmas because, you decided to vote for somebody that I don't like. Give me a break. Families are special. And we've got too many people, as you've talked about, that don't have them.
When I
I think that's about the only thing I can agree with Mike at this point.
took this prompt, I kind of took it more of like my view of the person changed differently because, not because of the way they voted, but because some of their values to me were, like he said, moral values, and that shows kind of part of their characters.
Would you say that morality is subjective to each individual person though? Or would you say morals are the same across the board?
The basic is human equality for all. And so if you don't believe that somebody should have an equality based on their gender, their sexual orientation, or their race, or anything like that, that's a moral problem in my eyes.
That's a huge thing with the trans and the gay and the LGBTQ and all that whole thing. So I grew up LDS, being Utah County.
He's a Mormon. How did I not call that? I thought he was Christian. Man, they almost go hand in hand. They both have the same sense of style, I guess. Man, he's a Mormon.
It's like 95% Mormon. At 8 years old is when you get baptized. And so if you're raised around where 95% of people think the exact same way, I feel like that's too young of an age where you're a child and you don't really know what you're doing. And so where I have a problem with the trans or these different things is they're getting kids at like 10, 12 years old and they're pushing them down that path.
I don't know what he's talking about, but as a straight person, honestly, I don't think you could really have an opinion on trans. Like, you can't really say too much.
Who's they?
Oh, Parker's about to shut him down, dude. Get him.
Who's they?
Who's indoctrinating these kids into becoming LGBTQ and etc.?
There's a lot of groups out there.
Like?
I've just heard that there's groups out there. I don't know. You don't think there's groups out there that do that?
No.
Let's go, Parker. Shut him down. Slam dunk.
I'm assuming you're a straight man, so I think it's weird for you to comment on the queer experience and what that's like for someone growing up who's struggling with those experiences.
Is he mad? What was that eye twitch? You saw that, right? The eye twitch? Is he processing? He's got
The
to
way you're describing it as indoctrination.
double blink. He's processing.
People who are figuring out their sexualities and their queer identities aren't necessarily going to ascribe to the first labels that are put before them.
If I'm not mistaken, the brain isn't fully developed until you're 25 years old, correct?
Yeah, correct.
So I know how I used to think at 16. Man. I know how I used to think at 21. Man.
Man, if you thought I was dumb before, wait until you see me now.
I'm not against kids doing whatever they want. It's just the older you get, you change. I got my first tattoo at 15. I'm covered now. If I was a little older, I probably would have waited. When you're young, you're not thinking. And everybody has made a bad choice. And because you stressed out, you go change your gender. Because you want to try something new, once you do it, you can't go back. The more you throw stuff at kids before they develop.
The tattoo art. Why would he use tattooing yourself as an argument? That holds no water.
Developed, that's indoctrination because you're trying to get them while they're not fully cognitive to know what's going on.
The older you get, the more conservative you become.
That doesn't make sense. If somehow you get older and you find yourself being conservative, you pretty much just gave up on yourself. I don't see how you can go backwards.
When I got older and I had kids and I had a family, I actually started reading policies. Everything about me changed.
So he started reading politics and didn't learn anything, and he became a conservative.
When I became a father, because I had a reason to, and I'm sure you would agree with that.
Yeah.
Because being a father means you have to be a conservative.
As I've gotten older and the environment we're in right now, I feel like they're trying to cancel the Constitution. They're trying to cancel Christianity.
Wait, he's a Christian? Wait, how is it that he's able to escape the clutches of Mormonism? He liberates himself, but he doesn't apply that liberty to other aspects of his life. He falls right back into, okay.
I mean, most teenagers are liberal. I was liberal when I was teen. It's fun. Culture is liberal. So when you're younger, you're going to be a part of culture.
Right.
When you're older, you're trying to raise your family. You don't have a time to care about what LeBron James said or who did that. Just when you mature, you value what's around you.
My name's Sean. I'm 36 years old, and I'm a conservative parent. My dad's kind of my idol. I've seen him basically build a very successful life and seen how simple he's lived his life through prayer and through just basic conservative principles. Being raised up LDS or Mormon, I saw a lot of just judgment, and so I don't necessarily believe that
Holy shit, dude. Did you see that?
in prayer.
100% right. Sean doesn't even look left. He can't even turn left in his car.
I've been all across the board as far as the way my life has gone, and at my happiest times, I've lived by conservative values.
Building off of what you're saying about like teenagers, we're a different generation, and so we view the world differently, and I think that's probably why you've seen more teenagers be liberal, because we just view the world that way, but I don't think it has anything to do with
No, my generation, I was liberal too when I was a teenager, and all my friends were too. And when you're a
Anytime I've ever had a conversation with somebody and they tell me, oh yeah, I used to be a liberal, I can't help but feel that they're just completely bullshitting me because I don't understand how you can go backwards. I really don't.
teenager, life is fun. It's just totally
He was never a liberal.
kick it, you party. So that's what I'm saying. I get the teenage. As you grow, you either can run away from responsibility or embrace responsibility. When there's
So he thinks that by being a liberal, you're avoiding responsibility, and that when you're conservative, you're embracing that responsibility.
real things going on, you start looking at life a little different. Versus when I was young, I didn't know about that. I didn't know about corporate gains tax, and I didn't know about my stock account, and I didn't know that I can, all these things that I didn't know when I was a kid.
So when people are generally talking about taxing the rich more, they're talking about the top 400 billionaires that are literally paying a lower effective tax rate.
Oh, Parker's about to kill him. Like, I hope Johnny realizes that these kids are just literally like totally standing over him, and they're just dunking. These kids are so based. He has no argument. He doesn't stand a chance. None of them do. Sean brings nothing to the table. Johnny's the only one talking, and he doesn't even live in this reality. Mike has had a couple decent points. He knows some stuff, and he knows when to shut the fuck up.
In taxes than the middle class. The top 400 billionaires paying an effective tax rate of 8%. That's obviously not a fair share. And I think obviously everyone can agree here that they should be paying at least a fair share, right?
No, I don't agree with that. Sorry, Parker. But I do not think that we need a fair share from these people. I want to bleed these people. I want to bleed them and use their blood to give to the American people.
Right?
How do you increase taxes on someone's assets, though? Most of those billionaires aren't.
Unrealized capital gains is how they're specifically trying to.
Oh my God, I cannot believe he knew it. Oh. Easy W for Parker. I cannot believe he knew that. Johnny thought he had him, and I thought he was about to for a second. I was going to be so pissed because he has had no point this entire talk. Oh, wow.
To do it now, but it would be through long-term capital gains, because a lot of the people who are paying those taxes, they're paying capital gains tax rate. There's also tax loopholes that have been lobbied into Congress by big corporations and big businesses lobbying politicians.
L. You just lost, bud.
To get whatever they want.
So if you get older and you work yourself off and you become a multimillionaire, you deserve to pay more because other people didn't work as hard as you?
But it's not because other people didn't work as hard as me. It's because we, as a society, want to give everyone access to things like basic necessities like healthcare, education, have everyone have an equal opportunity. We don't have that right now.
You can have equal opportunity of a baseline, but the outcome would still be different because every individual is going to work different levels.
Okay, yeah. I mean, duh.
Obviously, yeah.
Right, so I think that's where we are as a society. I was able to pull it off. I graduated high school with a 1.9 GPA. I don't have a college degree. So the only limits are the limits you place on yourself. That's just my perspective.
America is the best country in the world.
All right, so for this one, you're probably gonna have to grit your teeth and hang on to the side of your seat. We are not the best country in the world, and it's time that we wake the fuck up and realize that we are a third world country with a Gucci belt, and I stand by that. We are pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. We may be one of the wealthiest countries in the world, but we do not take care of our own. We don't even take care of our country. Our infrastructure is falling apart. Hotels are falling in Florida. Texas is freezing over. Millions are freezing and, have no water or hungry.
I think despite all of our challenges and problems, when you look at all the other countries of the world, everybody is still trying to come here.
The way I could
Right, because we rule the world. Why wouldn't they want to be here? given the fact that, our middle and lower classes live pretty miserable lives while, just down the street, the high class kids are like flexing on us. But
Talk out loud the way I can feel myself, the way I can express myself fully as an individual. It ain't many places black men can go do that outside
he could literally go anywhere and do that.
of America.
3 years ago, when I got into the court systems and the different rights taken away from me and government control.
What? What are you talking about, Sean? What rights were taken from you? See, this is what I'm talking about. He's pulling shit out of his ass. And I really request that Jubilee starts having fact checks on these people for all of them.
And government power.
For both parties, the liberal teens and, for both sides, regardless of what the topic or what groups are being involved in these debates. Fact checks. Fact checks.
And so when you have that stuff stripped away from you and you realize most other countries don't have the freedom that America has. America has been the greatest country ever, and I think it will continue because of a lot of good people that stand up for the right.
Yeah, we were the greatest country for like a solid 25 years. And it just started going downhill from there.
Things.
I think I would like to ask the question, what is America the best at?
I think we just was talking about the freedoms that we have here versus what they don't have in other countries.
So what about places in Scandinavia that actually have higher amounts of freedom? They have better democracies than we do here, higher quality of life, higher median income. They have healthcare.
It's also, you have to remember though, like the social experiments that are going on in Scandinavian countries, although it is going very well, they also don't have the diversity that we have, and that diversity really changes things. It changes the chemistry of everything. If I want to use a chemistry reference, I feel like that would be the best way of putting it.
Systems that are more efficient, that take care of everyone in their population, more access to education.
But when you look at the big picture, everybody wants to come here. Millions of people are not trying to get into Scandinavia
Why?
because we have more opportunity than any other place in the world.
We don't even make the top 25 in women equality.
But we have a better opportunity to do something about it.
That's how it's going to be. But we always have a better opportunity of fixing the shitty things we have.
Compared to other countries. And I would love it for Europe to open their borders the way we have and see if you can get people from other parts of the world to do mass migration to Europe.
I was going to mention Scandinavian countries as well, but I think it's also important to address that Scandinavian countries are very homogenous, racially, socioeconomically. They don't face the same geographic diversity that we have. What you were mentioning with the fact that we have the opportunity to write with women inequality, why is that not happening? It's because the way our democracy is set up, our Congress is literally in a gridlock right now as a
Dude, our Congress is fucking infuriatingly dumb.
Has been for so many past sessions of Congress. We aren't getting anything productive done.
The opportunity we have here is incredible, and I'm very happy that I live here and not somewhere else.
Right, obviously, it's probably best for us all to be born here. Obviously, we're all grateful to be here. It all comes down to the very fact that the people who are running our country are literally running it into the ground.
But we are so focused on, oh, America is the best, that we don't look at these other countries and say, why?
Yeah, and that's one of the biggest pet peeves. When I see people, especially my family members, and they're just so ultra nationalistic and, oh yeah, America's the greatest country. It's really sickening. I mean, it's cool to be patriotic and have, pride in your country, but to the point where it's just laughable because it's not the greatest anymore. Which was the whole point of Trump's slogan, "Make America Great Again." It hasn't been great in a long time, and he didn't make it great again.
Why are all those people so happy, and what is that, and how can we incorporate that into our society?
I mean, I would say I think diversity is good. I think diversity of thought and diversity of pain it's super helpful. It's really easy to get clogged up into this groupthink. So I don't expect anyone else to agree with me or feel the way I feel. I just expect you to respect my right to feel this way. I respect your right to feel this way, and we keep it moving.
That's the only way we can go about it. We can have these conversations with people that we disagree with, and for the most part, it's always going to end up with blood because, I mean, when people watch these things, they're usually looking for blood anyways. People have a hard time having these conversations because it immediately leads into some aggressive acts of as if they're being attacked verbally from the other side. Some people just don't have an understanding on how to efficiently have these conversations, and instead of trying to convince the other side or to persuade them to join your side is the wrong way of going about it. Um, whoops. You just got to have the conversation and just kind of like have it to mostly just describe how you feel about the situation. And I've found that that's usually the best way to go about it. It remains positive, and it helps to reassure the person you're talking to that you're not trying to um, like sneak attack them or somehow like push them into your views.
100% agree. I couldn't agree more, actually.
Awesome, that's a wrap. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Well, there you have it. Liberal teens and conservative parents. What did we learn?